Hello and welcome to Transforming Tomorrow from the Pentland Centre for Sustainability in Business. I'm Paul Turner.
And I'm Professor Jane Babington.
Often the challenge with sustainability is in the transition from one system to a newer, better one. How do you move a cotton picking industry that uses state-mandated forced labour towards a functioning private sector endeavour? Do you ever have to do things you don't want to do, Jan?
Oh, so many times. I'm not even going to begin.
Can you tell me any of them without getting fired from your current role of employment?
No. But I suppose we all do from time to time have to do things we're not so keen on. But that's different from having to do things because you've got no choice. I mean, that's a whole different category, isn't it?
That was my point exactly. You've taken it away from me. You just want to do this whole intro by yourself this week?
No, I don't.
Yes, that's sometimes we all probably think, especially when you're young and you're a teenager and your parents ask you to tidy your room or wash the dishes. In fact, you don't even have to be a teenager. You can be a 10-year-old girl. I'm not talking any personal experience, obviously, here. You feel, why do I have to do that? Why are you forcing me to do this? But like you said, you're not really being forced. You're being asked, and it's something that you really should be doing anyway. But that's an entirely different kettle of fish to being forced into doing something.
And we have had some other podcasts where we've talked about forced labour and modern slavery. And I suppose modern slavery is the overarching term and forced labour is the more specific term, whereby people are required to work without their ability to say no. And that comes from many different sources. So, and it affects global supply chains. So I think that's a big part of what we're going to talk about today.
Yes, we've had the episode at the start of the season with Kyle Arabi, which was about human trafficking and how that ties in with modern slavery. We've had conversations about modern slavery in this country within the fashion industry. We've had conversations about modern slavery throughout supply chains and how companies operate within them. We haven't heard from anyone who has been in a first-hand situation of being involved in forced labour.
No, and I think that's a very particular perspective that's very important for our listeners to find out about.
Yes, because today we are joined by someone who, in his homeland, has experienced forced labour. Someone who is now a PhD researcher here at Lancaster University Management School, looking at the challenges of eradicating forced labour and modern slavery from global supply chains, and focusing specifically on the textile and apparel sector in developing countries. So we're going to say welcome to Farman Asadov.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm from Uzbekistan. Over the past 10 years, I had the experience in the public sector, NGOs, and working on the human rights and the labor standards. One reason that I am here, because the national government scholarship, which introduced after major reforms in Uzbekistan, that it is called the presidential scholarship, that the government create a special initiative to identify potential candidates, future leaders, to support them to study top university in Western countries. The program provides the full support from tuition fee, living cost, and after the graduation, many graduates take the top level in the ministerial level or as a senior public level. To help bring the international knowledge back to Uzbekistan, help to contribute to Uzbekistan development. I'm part of this project, and I choose to do the PhD at Lancaster University because it has very strong reputation in supply chain and sustainability. My goal is develop the research to help positive change in workers' life on the ground.
And this is what I really like about PhD students from overseas is that you're gaining a lot from us, but we're gaining even more from you in terms of understanding different settings and understanding different issues. So if we maybe start with Uzbekistan, can you tell us something about the history of that country? Because I'm sure many of our listeners currently will be on Google Maps to look exactly where the country is. And tell us about its economic makeup, what the economy is made up of, etc.
Yeah, Uzbekistan is Central Asian country that became independent in 1991 after the collapse of the Soviet Union. Today, it has nearly 40 million people, making the most populous country in the Central Asia. Historically, under the Soviet system, we had the central planet economy, and Uzbekistan served as the main cotton production hub. That's why cotton became the core part of the economy after the independence also. Today, however, our economy is more open and much more diverse, relying on several key industries, kind of agriculture. Cotton still is very important. The mining, the gold, is where Uzbekistan is the main global producer, and the manufacturing. More recently, tourism is becoming a key pillar of the economy, as the ancient cities like Bukhara, Samarkand are becoming major destination for international travelers.
I think that's a very good recommendation for some future holidays. Get out there to the middle.
You need.
Are we going to base all future guests on this? You want people to come in, tell you about their countries, and decide whether that's where your next holiday is going to be?
Well, it's kind of like a very ancient part of the world, but also it looks very beautiful in terms of there's plenty of water in some places, and it's green, it's lush. I mean, it really is. These places are amazing, and yet we don't really know very much about them from the UK end.
No, that's it. I think particularly in the UK, but I dare say most of Western Europe, it's not an area of the world that you consider much when it comes to travel. Does the old Silk Road, does that run through Uzbekistan?
Uzbekistan is the part of the Silk Road, and that's why the Bukhara, Samarkand, the Khiva is a major Silk Road cities, and they have the huge historical and cultural the buildings, and that's why nowadays the tourism is becoming the main sector and is booming. And I think nowadays more than 10 million visitors each year coming to Uzbekistan to see.
40 million people and 10 million visitors.
Yeah.
That's incredible, isn't it?
If you're in a room with 5 people, the chances are at least one of them is a tourist. Yeah.
That's amazing. So dear listeners, we'll put some information about the Silk Road, etc., on our show notes, so just to get you into context. But it's more recent context that we want to talk about today, and particularly...
I'll cross off all those lists about the history of the Silk Road and Samarkand then. Thank you, Jan.
We have a historian here. You could be in big trouble.
What do you think I'm going to do? I'm not going to question a man about the history of his own country. I'm 999% sure that Farmon knows a lot more about Uzbekistan and its history than I do.
I'm sure he does. But let's come to more recent past. And particularly, you highlighted the cotton as being a big production sector within the country. What's the history of the concerns about fair and decent work in the cotton industry there?
The concern was related to Soviet cotton system, largely continued after independence of Uzbekistan. Cotton, often called in Uzbekistan as a white gold, they remain the key economic pillar. What we need to know, the Uzbek cotton is hand-picked, and so harvesting is labor-intensive production. Until 2017, the government mobilized around 2 million people to harvest cotton during the September and October period. They include mainly public sector workers, including teachers, doctors, university students, even the school children. From 2011, the global boycott, where over 300 the global brands, including Nike, H&M, Zara, announced that they had stopped sourcing from Uzbekistan and committed to avoid any product related to Uzbek cotton in their supply chain. Fortunately, after government transition, the government officially started to reform the sector and ended state imposed the forced labor in 2021, and the global boycott was lifted in 2022, and it created a new chapter in Uzbek cotton textile industry.
We've talked a lot on this podcast in the past about the potential for businesses and corporations to impact things beyond their own operations. Do you think that the companies that you mentioned, the likes of Nike, the likes of Zara, etc., pulling out and refusing to deal with Uzbekistan cotton was the main or a main factor in the forced labour situation changing?
Yes, because it is the state imposed the forced labor. In 2017, the Cotton Campaign started. Cotton Campaign Coalition started their advocacy to pressurize Uzbekistan to stop using the forced labor in the cotton production, and then they pressurized the brands to stop the using Uzbek cotton. But however, in fact, Uzbekistan produces still the same amount of cotton during that years. Mainly, the Uzbek cotton production went to the raw cotton. They export to the third countries like Bangladesh, Vietnam, the Turkey. They played as a player in the OPEC side of the supply chain.
That would be a big economic impact, though, because raw cotton versus processed cotton, there's the value added is then happening outside of the country. So that must have been incredibly disruptive for the economy as well.
Yeah. It was the main problem during that years, the raw cotton, the export, and the government treat this one as a main key pillar, and they try to use the forced labor as a patriotism, as your duty to help the country to develop.
Yeah. As we said at the opening, and as you described, the public sector's involvement in that state-mandated forced labour process, what was your experience of that?
Yeah, about my experience, let me share the student times. Throughout my student years, we were sent to remote camps to pick cotton. Sometimes it is 40, 50 kilometers away from the major cities. We stayed there for weeks, and the routine was very tense. We need to wake up at 5 a.m. and working in the field until the evening under the 30, 40 degree in hot weather. Each student has daily quota. Sometimes it is 50, 60 kilo per day. And if you didn't meet the certain daily target, you could face the serious the academic pressure after returning to university. Also, the living condition was very, very difficult. Many camps were old, most built during the Soviet Union, and lack of basic facilities. In one room, 10, 15 students need to sleep together. And looking back, it is hard to believe that we managed it under those conditions. But at the same time, the picking cotton was framed the patriotism rather than the state imposed the forced labor, as I understand it now. And you could not refuse because the same government that demanded labor also controlled your education, your future career. This is the essence of the state-imposed forced labor, that state itself as a main orchestrator.
When you're growing up then in Uzbekistan, not now, but when you were growing up, did you know that this was going to be part of your life at some point in the future then, no matter what, if you wanted to go into higher education and such?
Yes, definitely. Because it came from the Soviet Union time. It is more than 30, 40 years. For everybody in the Uzbekistan during that time, it was normal because it's a part of the life. You need to do it, and it framed it's a patriotism. And during that time also, we never thought one day it would end.
So when did it become clear to people in Uzbekistan that this wasn't just a big, great thing for everyone to be doing their patriotic duty, that there was a lot more to it than just that?
Yeah. After the transition, the government in 2017, new president came. Then the government started publicly acknowledge that there is the involvement of state imposed the forced labor. There is the huge problem in related to the corruption. That's why then the people start to understand it is not only because of the national development, and it is the main problem with government structure, cotton structure.
And at that time, I mean, they obviously gave you some food and somewhere to stay, even though it sounds quite awful and quite basic. were you paid for that time as well?
Yeah. They, they paid during that time like $10 per day. You would work the whole day, and they would deduct the certain money for your eating, and they organize. And that after returning to the uni, we need to pay our debt for eating or living in the remote camps during that time.
Did you end up with any money then after all of those expenses were paid?
No. To be honest, after coming back normally to the university, I need to pay around $100 or more than $100 for my living costs, because in the beginning of the cotton harvesting, you can pick the 50, 60 kilo, but at the end, it is impossible. It is, you just pick like the 10, 15 kilo. It means that your 1 day living cost is more than the 20 kilo.
Yeah.
Is it impossible because there's no cotton to pick, or is it impossible because you're physically so worn down?
Because there is less cotton.
Mm-hmm.
In one field, we need to go to the pick the one time the cotton. After like the 10, 15 days, the cotton will open, and you need to come back to pick that cotton again. That's why at the end it would be difficult to pick more cotton, even if there were not any cotton in the field, but the government still try to hold you to stay there, because it is the state, the quota system. They just keep you for the nonsense. You just live there, you just sit there, and till when the central government told, okay, it's end, everybody should return.
It's just such a ridiculous situation. It might be that there's 5 days work, but you've got to stay there for 10 days because that's what's mandated, that you will be there for 10 days.
Yeah.
So that's hugely difficult for you as a citizen and as an individual, but also that's hugely difficult for a government that's built its economic, sort of plan on this exploitation of people. So you said that a new president was elected. How did the whole country go about changing that model of the free labour into something more paid?
After the government change, the government changed the cotton sector is organized. How they organize the cotton production has largely shifted into the private sector through the cotton textile cluster system. Around nowadays in Uzbekistan, 130 the clusters. It is very unique system which the vertically integrated firms that manage the chain from the farming, harvesting, textile, and garment. Alongside these restructuring reforms have improved paying and working condition, independent monitoring, especially during the harvest, has become part of the system. Also, the government support new establishing textile firms that, for example, the paying the half picking cotton expenses, and help them for exporting to Western countries through the paying the half of logistics costs. Also, the Uzbekistan has gained GPS Plus, which the duty-free access to the Western European countries.
Oh, and so that duty-free access, was that part of like the international response?
Yeah.
Because you have to help. You can't just say, stop it, I'm going to pull out all the financial lifelines. There has to be some relationship building.
Do you have siblings, cousins, nieces, nephews, so younger people who are growing up now in Uzbekistan who maybe 10 years ago would have therefore gone into this state-mandated forced labour? And if you do know people like this, what's the situation for them? Is life become easy for them? Have studies at university become easy for them because this is no longer part of it?
Yeah, honestly, for example, if I told about this situation, we went there 2 months, or the awful condition, they didn't believe.
How quickly
Yeah,
people
yeah,
forget.
I forget. Yeah, they didn't believe because for me, the 2017, the first time government didn't use the university students to pick cotton. It was for everybody. It was the shock how it is possible because during the September, October, every city is less car, less people, and everybody in every public organization on the entering you can see Hama Pachtaga, everybody to cotton, or everybody to Aba and the white gold. And the hospitals worked as a skeleton personnel. The main problem because most of their staff already sent to the picking cotton, but nowadays that nobody believe we had this such system in the 21st century.
It's amazing how widespread the positive effects are going to be because, as you said, people are drawn away from so many other sectors, and now it seems almost ridiculous that you'd have understaffed hospitals because people are taken away from the hospitals to work there, and now you've got hospitals that are properly staffed the whole year round. You've got students who are able to study the whole year round and not have to worry about not going away for a month, however long, from their studies. All the other aspects of life as well.
But the question is, who's picking the cotton now?
Yeah, because the payment is very low. Nobody want to pick that cotton at that price. Nowadays, after transferring the cotton production to private sector, now the private sector is paying very good, and the village people want to pick and want to spend their time on the cotton because they are making the good money now.
It's going to mean that the final product maybe costs a little bit more for the consumers over here, say, who are buying it. But it's what we talk about so often is you pay more because you want it to be coming from somewhere where it's been ethically sourced. And you're no longer having a state-mandated forced labour, you're having people who are being paid well for it. That's a really important factor, and it's what we've talked about many times before when it comes to modern slavery and supply chains and how companies report on that and figure that out. This is what they want to have within their systems, properly paid workers in properly structured companies.
But it also seems to me, and I know a little bit of your PhD studies because I had the pleasure of being involved in one of your upgrades. Sounds like it's a systems effect, though. So it's not just the ownership of the fields, it's not just the technology, it's not just the labour, it's not just the export conditions. So what I'm really interested in hearing about is how from 2017 when the conditions changed through to 2022 when the global boycott was removed, what kind of things happened to make that possible? Because it's a program, isn't it? It's not a single intervention.
Yeah. There are several steps and the Uzbek government tried to do the change the system from the state mandated forced labor to the private. The first thing, as I mentioned, it was the cluster system. They transferred the whole system from the state management to the private sector, which vertically integrated enterprise, which they manage from farming till garment production. The second thing, there are a lot of international support. For example, as I mentioned, is GPS Plus, duty-free access to the European market. The second, the GIZ, Better Cotton, Better Work initiative, also the Cotton Campaign, are helping to build new emerging textile and garment industry. And nowadays, at least the 10 international brands started sourcing from Uzbekistan. And, it is kind of very helpful, the international support, because during the boycott years, we did only the export raw cotton. Nowadays, it's building the scale, building quality, building the supply chain is the long run and is very difficult. Without the international support, it couldn't build.
Is there a level of national pride that you are now producing such good quality cotton that goes around the world to so many important companies?
Yes, sure. It gives kind of the pride when you saw that made in Uzbekistan label, because it is the pride. Before we just export the cotton, but the other countries, kind of Bangladesh, Vietnam, Turkey, they did, and all labels made in Turkey, made in Bangladesh. Now the seeing the made in Uzbekistan gives kind of the pride.
I almost want to check the label on my clothes now. It'd be a bit weird to start getting undressed in the studio just to read the labels, but maybe one of the things we're wearing says "Made in Uzbekistan."
I shall certainly look for that label, and I'd encourage our dear listeners to look for that label as well, because it says something more transformational as well.
Yeah.
So we talked very positively about the situation now. Are there still problems, though? Are there issues with the cotton industry in Uzbekistan that still need to be addressed?
Yes, today the Uzbekistan cotton industry they face new set of the challenges, unlike the ending the forced labor, but now the overcoming the economic and structural barriers to shape how quickly the country can rebuild its place in global supply chain as the trusted sourcing destination. First, I can say there is a huge skill and knowledge gap. For many years, the sector was relatively closed and centered on the production raw cotton, and so nowadays the government try to grow up on the value chain from which the competing internationally required continued investment in technology, the training, and better coordination of the supply stage of each production stage. And the second, the competitiveness challenge. During the boycott period, cotton exports continued, but often moved through less transparent in the shadow roads. Now the Uzbekistan is trying to move into textile garment, but it is entering the market dominated by established producers such as Bangladesh, Vietnam, the Turkey, reaching the necessary skill and scale, quality, speed. They're providing the long-term reliability to global brands will take time. And the third, I can say it is the reputational and trust challenge. Even after the boycott was lifted, international buyers still expect the strong traceability, transparency, and the compliance. This creates kind of the chicken and egg problem. Without the stronger demand from the higher value buyers, it is harder to raise wages and invest further in working condition. But without high standard and clear evidence of the compliance, it is harder to attract the buyers, Western buyers, so that the current task is building modern, competitive, the credible cotton garment sector that can integrate fully into global market.
And I know that we've been talking about Uzbekistan in particular, but is this a sort of situation that's common in other industries and other places around the globe? So while your story and the story of your country is unique in particular to that country, is it the only place where there's been these problems and then there's been a process to develop something quite different?
Yes, the forced labor is global systemic issue in many, you can see in many labor intensive the sectors like agriculture, fishing, the construction. However, Uzbekistan case is the unique because it is scale and it was orchestrated by the state itself. But today, very similar concerns are rising regarding our neighbor country, Turkmenistan. That like the Uzbekistan in the past, Turkmenistan still face serious international allegations state-imposed forced labor, where the cotton campaign still working, pressurizing the government to change. The key difference is the path of each country has taken. while Uzbekistan has opened to international monitoring and committed reforms, and the Turkmenistan still remains much more the closest system, make it far more difficult to address those issues on the ground. And additionally, in some countries, even when the government are not directly organizing the forced labor, they may still contribute indirectly by keeping labor protection weak through weak legislation and limited civil society, especially in the developing country context. This can create the race on the bottom, where countries compete to attract investment by lowering lower costs, often at the expense of the most vulnerable workers.
So, draw to a close then, Farman, and look to the future. What would you like to see happen in Uzbekistan with regards to labour practices as we move forward?
Yeah, I want to see the Made in Uzbekistan label become a mark of the ethical pride. To get there, we need the strong, independent trade unions, the worker representation, modern manufacturing. My hope is the Uzbekistan transition serve as the model for how the country can rebuild its labor practices and reintegrate into global economy.
That's a pretty good ambition. But I also think that, because I know you're quite close to graduating, as you go back, I think you'll be part of that process. You know, personally, will be part of rebuilding that.
Yeah. I hope so. I will be in the part because it is the government project. They are supporting us, and our duty is return the country, bring Western knowledge, build this industry to return to global economy.
Oh, I wish you success with that. Every success.
Yes, we look forward to seeing what happens, and thank you very much for joining us today, Farman, and sharing your story.
Thank you very much for having me.
I don't think you're ever allowed to moan again, Jan, about being asked to fill out the requisition forms.
I think that's the case, and I was really super keen for our listeners to hear from Farman. As I maybe said, I was involved in his upgrade, and it just struck me as like a really important insight of somebody who's actually been there and actually been involved in forced labour. And sometimes we think that people in that situation are sort of wholly victims, I think he was victimised by his own government, but at the same time that it was taken for granted, it was a long-standing practice, but then actually things can change. And I think that's what I hope our listeners took from it, that with a program, it doesn't have to stay the way something is.
And yeah, it was just normal for the people in Uzbekistan until less than 10 years ago that, yes, this is what would happen. For a few months of the year, you would be taken out and you'd be working, and not necessarily even working some of the time, as he pointed out, because you'd have done the harvest in 5 days rather than 10. And it's crazy to think that this kind of situation still goes on, because it's the kind of thing you think, oh no, that happened decades, even centuries ago in some countries.
Yeah.
That was when it was, but no, it was actually going on not that long ago at all.
But I'll put on the show notes something about the Better Cotton Initiative, because there's one thing to say, well, we don't like what's happening in a particular sector or in a particular country and just sort of abandon that country and say, hard luck. It's another to actually build a process and that will allow things to change. And I think that's one of the things that the Better Cotton Initiative does. I was also quite interested at that international support for tariff-free, duty-free access to markets to try to, actually change the cost-benefit situation for the country as well. And, I thought that was really quite cool to hear about.
Yes, GPS Plus, which I thought was just a very posh way of knowing where you are on the planet. But it turns out, no, it's all about, getting access to those important markets.
Yeah.
And that's something that was needed. It was not just changing the system, but getting access both to the markets and to the companies coming back in for that boycott to be lifted so that operations could take place again. And that way, money now goes in and it goes to the people, and they're working within the cotton industry because they choose to work within the cotton industry rather than for those so many days, weeks, months of every year, you're said, no, that's what you're doing now by the government.
And he used a phrase that is something that you see in the papers a bit from time to time, shadow roads. So an untransparent sort of supply chain. Because we also hear about the shadow fleets, particularly for oil moving around the world. So this idea of a lack of transparency making it very difficult to know exactly what's going on. And the converse, of course, is that transparency starts building trust, reputation, the ability to get decent work and to get decent prices for the goods that are being produced.
Yes, and now it can proudly say made in Uzbekistan, whereas previously it might have said, using some of the countries, made in Bangladesh, but the cotton had actually come from Uzbekistan and gone through various channels to get there.
Well, here's our challenge to our listeners, but our challenge to each other of who can find the first made in Uzbekistan label.
Hang on, I'll just reach behind me, pull the collar in front of my face and read what it says. Yes. No, I won't do that here. It'd be a hideous sight for all concerned.
And our producer Jo is busy looking at all her labels as we speak as well. So dear listeners, if you see it, let us know, and you might win the prize of being first. That's the only prize.
I'm not offering any money or any other incentive. If you want to give people money, that's your business.
Yes,
nothing
indeed.
to do with me.
Yes, indeed.
Yes. So where are we going next week?
I think we should keep on thinking about markets and marketplaces.
I think we should, and I think we should think about accessibility to them and how marketplaces are not necessarily accessible for everyone to the same level.
That sounds brilliant.
Yes, so we're going to welcome Leanne Higgins and Killian O'Leary from here at Lancaster University. They're going to be talking to us about the Marketplace and I project, which works with businesses but also works with people with a disability in order to spread knowledge and practice when it comes to better accessibility to marketplaces. Until then, thank you very much for listening. It's goodbye from me, Paul Turner.
And it's goodbye from me, Jane Babington.